excited.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be... I've been to one. I went to the one for...
With another woman.
My mother. And she had no idea, by the way, that I was taking her to that island. And she's like, where are we going? We went on these really small trains in the middle of Japan. She's like, I don't know where we're going. Where are you taking me? So you're going to love it.
This is episode 55, talking about Japan. Why is it so good? So good. Hello everybody, welcome to Taiwanica. My name is Anita. I'm one of the hosts on Taiwanica, and today we have another person who is Japan addict. His name is Eric.
Hello everybody. 大家好. Konnichiwa. My name is Eric, and I am the other host here on Taiwanica Podcast. Happy to be here again for another wonderful episode, and this is one that I am particularly fond of. Yes, I'm so excited about it, and I know that Anita is also very excited about it because we have traveled there together quite a few times.
Yeah. Why is Eric a Japan addict? We will get to that in details later. But first, before we talk about anything about Japan, I would like to have a shout out today.
Okay, who should you shout out to?
She's my student. I consider her as my friend. She's great. She has a daughter. Very cute. They have the same hairstyle.
Excellent.
Extra cute. Her name is Jessie.
Jessie.
Why do I shout out Jessie? Because she has been traveled to Japan so many times.
She's probably Japanese now.
I think so. I think she traveled to Japan already 2 times, like a couple months ago.
Wow.
And between those 2 trips, it was just a few weeks apart, I think.
Oh my God.
First time was in Okinawa. Second time was in Fukuoka.
Nice.
And she's going to Fukuoka again.
That's amazing.
With the family.
Wow. I really love Fukuoka.
Yeah. She gave me the idea of having an episode talking about Japan because, people start traveling and Japan is our top one. I mean, for Taiwanese people to go to. So
Is that right?
yeah, we'd love to go to Japan.
So before we dive too deep into that, I just want to give a little outline of what we're going to be talking about today. And one of the things is, Anita, what she just mentioned is basically like Taiwan and Japan. What's going on there? Why is there such a passionate relationship between you two countries? And then the next thing we're going to talk about is Anita's point of view of Japan, because she's been there quite a few times, like we just mentioned, sometimes with me, sometimes without me, but she went with her family. And then she really wants me to share my experience, so I'm going to also, I guess, bore all of you people with my points of view on Japan. And then after that, we're going to talk about our points of view together, super awkward and romantic style. Hope you enjoy that.
And the last part, sorry about, I just got too excited. The last part is so great.
No, that one is a surprise.
It's a surprise, yes.
You have to listen to the whole episode to find out what the last thing is. I'm not too excited about it.
I'm so excited.
So it has to do something with me.
Embarrass Eric. It also always makes me so excited.
So enjoy. All right. So let's go ahead and dive on in. Anita, you're going to be taking the lead on this part. What is going on between you and... You are Taiwan, by the way. Taiwan and Japan, what is this, like a romantic relationship that would really hot and passionate in the early years, but then it's kind of withered out, or is it still on? I don't know. Why is Taiwan and Japan just so close?
That's a really good question, and I think it's more than just romantic relationship. We're more like a family now. I think because of our history, we share a very special history. I mean, Japan and Taiwan, a long time ago when Taiwan was chaotic time, a lot of people would just come to Taiwan and take over. And another new group of people come from a different country, take over again.
Well, before you just say another, let's do a little history round.
Oh my God.
Let's go.
Please don't do this.
Netherlands, Spain. Portugal was there to name it Formosa.
Oh, you know that.
And then there was China for a second, and then there was Japan, and then there was China again.
Yeah.
So, and then there was Taiwan.
Yeah. That was easy.
Yeah. I know my history.
Good job.
So, all right.
Yeah, that's right. Taiwan colonized by Japan for quite a bit. So, it's kind of like Taiwanese people before, Eric just mentioned, was colonized by so many different countries. And we are kind of don't know where to follow. I don't know. And until Japan showed up,
I like you, I follow you.
That's right. So, Japan was giving Taiwanese people but tons of rules, like how to be a decent citizen, like how to clean your body, how to learn languages, how to do manner, sort of kind of thing. So it's like, I would say probably like 2 generations back, like my grandparents' generation, they probably have like love and hate relationship, I mean Taiwan and Japan, because they brought us a lot of rules and guidance, but also the way of ruling people famous for like being cruel and like aggressive, but that's happened in the history. But since then, like people started to grow up in the relationship, like having this worship kind of feeling towards Japan, because Japan always creates something so beautiful, like the clothes, temples in Taiwan, and some buildings and food. Don't even mention about like right now we have so many fusion, like Taiwanese food and then Japanese food like everywhere, sushi, ramen, those kind of things. And at that time, like 2 generations back, traveling around wasn't so easy. But when it gets easier, like more and more airlines are flying around, of course they're gonna start with the country that's closer, right? So for the Japanese government, they ruled Taiwan for a little bit and they left, right? So we're kind of like, what is happening? We kind of have this bond, but all of a sudden it changed. And Japan leave us tons of beautiful things and ideas and thoughts, but we just kind of like departed in our life. We always have this kind of like desire to see what is more about Japan. So it's kind of like, slowly to growing in our mind, just, Japan used to rule Taiwan. And the things they left us, it was so beautiful. I wonder what they looks like. What does it look like in Japan? So when there's more airline happening, like I mentioned, there will be like the airlines go to the country that's close by. So of course Japan is the first one. So like people started to go travel there. And I think I don't know if it's true or not, but I definitely heard a Japanese friend say that because of the older generation, they feel guilty about what they did to Taiwan or what they did for World War II. So they are extremely friendly to Taiwanese people. And so it's kind of like we always have a special treat. They like us. They like Taiwanese tourists in Japan. So they will be like extra nice to us. We were there. We were treated like a king or queen. Of course, we're gonna go there more often, and I think that's where the relationships start to grow. And Taiwanese people are also really friendly about helping other countries. It's also very famous. So when the 2 recent natural disasters happened in Japan, like what is that thing called? The earthquake? In Fudao. I don't know how to say it. Fukushima, yeah. So like earthquake or tsunami, Taiwanese people are like, donate a lot of money and things to them. So they will be like super grateful.
Yeah, like even during COVID, one of the first countries to really help out Japan was Taiwan with masks.
Yes. And sadly, not long ago, the Prime Minister, is he the Prime Minister? Abe?
Yep.
Abe, yeah. He got shot, right? And in Taiwan, the newspaper, we have a full page for like, saying thank you to this Prime Minister in Japanese. So it shows like we do have a close bond between those 2 countries.
Well, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is stuff that you hear when you're there in Taiwan, but when you're in Japan and you ask people about Taiwan, most people say, oh, it's definitely like a really good place to go visit. But the deeper relationship explanation is really there. And so when I went to Taiwan and I heard about all this Japanese stuff being there, I was really shocked because, yeah, because when I lived in Japan, Taiwan was never really a subject that popped up. So I always thought, it's really interesting how passionate Taiwan is towards Japan, and it's really obvious, but it's not necessarily the other way around. If you talk to Japanese people about Taiwan, they'll say, oh, Taiwan is a good country. They'll say this, like, Taiwan ine. And I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. But they never really got any deeper into the conversation about it as to why it was a really cool country. So I just think it's really interesting how the relationship is built a little bit different in each country.
Do you think it's possible, like I mentioned the reason before, they feel guilty, so they feel shame? They don't want it to mention the deeper meaning why they're treating us so nice?
On a political level, that might be the case, but when it comes to a civilian level, I would say that they probably just don't even know because it's not even inside their like education system.
Is it not?
Maybe in the history of it, like because most of the things that countries like to celebrate in history is the victories,
That's true.
okay, and the things that they gained.
Yeah.
Okay, not the things that they lost,
I see.
unless it's something really heroic. But losing in World War II was not a heroic thing for Japan. So, they probably haven't really expressed a lot about it.
I see.
You see what I'm saying? So because of that, and that's going into my background of me knowing a lot about Japan, and we don't need to get into that just yet. I really want to know about your opinion about Japan, Anita. What is going on with your perspective as a Taiwanese and someone who's traveled the world? What is about Japan that you like? And also, what is another part about Japan that shocks you and makes you think, wow, Japan really is different from every other country you've been to?
That's a really good question. I think Japan is a very special country. Like, my first impression, that when I first time came there, it was some time ago. I don't remember when, but I was there with my parents to Osaka and Kyoto. When I was in Osaka, people are just like big city, but people are just extremely polite. It's like so polite, makes you feel uncomfortable because I guess because I don't speak the language, just kind of made me feel like, oh my God, I don't know what to say back. I don't know how to show them my gratitude, It's just like, oh my God, stop being so polite. You're making me so uncomfortable. But, that's just who they are. So they're super polite, and everything that you eat, everything that you put into your mouth is delicious. I don't know how they do that. Just everything, even the fried chicken from Lawson, especially the fried chicken from Lawson, the convenience store in Japan. Just so good. And people just so polite, and everything just so well organized. And, Osaka has already shocked me because I went there first for like 2-3 days. And then my parents and we moved to Kyoto. Yeah, so it's like more like a traditional town. It's a city in Japan.
That's right.
Yeah, so like everything just so beautiful. Just so beautiful. I don't know, like how can they preserve this so well? Like historical buildings, everything just so well. And we're just so shocked. And I remember that time I booked the hostel from Airbnb. And, Airbnb usually are the person who have a house and have like extra room or something. And then they put it on the list. So that's what I found, the B&B. And it was like in this tiny little alley, I can't find it, and everybody just don't speak English at all in Kyoto. So I tried to ask people, I show them the name of the B&B and I show them the address. So I remember the first time I asked a mom, so she just literally walked us to like help us to try to find the B&B.
Wow.
And we went to this very, very like so old, like little old town. People live there, old ladies. And finally one old lady just came up and they say, oh, it seems like she said she understands, she knows the place. So she took us there, and of course the whole conversation is Japanese, and just like, oh my God, you guys are so nice, but I don't know what to say. I just have to bow all the time. That's I think that's my language, body language. So yeah, they was like super nice. People are just so friendly. So far, my experience are all pretty much the same. Like people are super friendly, polite, willing to help, everything delicious, everything so beautiful. That's my impression. I think that's pretty much everybody's impression about Japan. And the part that surprised me was the crazy, like how crazy they can be.
What do you mean by crazy?
I think that I heard it from my parents. They went to Japan way before I did. So they went there with a tour. So they had like a tour guide, and the tour guide says, you look at Japanese people, they are just so friendly and polite all the time. But actually, sometimes in private, they are kind of have like a crazy side of them, like extremely alcoholic, or they might look very dressed up when they are going out, but maybe their house is really dirty or something like that. I was like, huh? I've never heard of it until I went to Japan. And I think in the previous episode, like how Eric and I met through Tinder. So at that time I happened to play Tinder. So I was like, let me find some friends, air
Air
quotes,
quotes.
in Japan. And, the guy was very direct. I was so shocked. You got me so scared. I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to go out and see you. It was like in a very direct, sexual way. Like, I was so shocked. And that's the part that surprised me. And the other time that surprised me was when we were in Fukuoka, Eric and I. And there was nighttime. I think it was Friday night. And we were just hanging out outside. And there were a bunch of people. Looks like a office worker. Yeah, you remember? They were like super drunk and they were just like lying on the floor outside of the train station, and the people, it seems pretty normal to see this happen.
Yep.
I was like, what is this? This is so crazy. And they were literally just like out.
Yep. Blacked out drunk.
Yes.
Completely smashed.
Yes.
Yep.
That's the part that surprised me.
Okay. Well, that's definitely a good perspective. A culture shock of Japan.
Culture super shock.
Oh, yeah, sure. So these are all very great points of view. Thank you so much for sharing, Anita. I think it gives a very clear perspective of what is commonly known for Japan. And not only that, but giving us a good culture shock that a lot of people don't necessarily expect to see inside of Japan until they actually go there and witness not only what they see on TV or on anime, but they actually see in real life. And it's quite shocking. The Japanese society has a lot of beautiful sides, but also a lot of dark sides. And so I guess I'll be happy to chime in.
Please do.
On my point of view. So before I do, just so everyone knows, my background is very rich with Japanese history and culture and education. That's because I went to an immersion school at a very young age. Kind of similar to what a lot of Taiwanese people do in Taiwan. They go to an English learning class or whatever.
Like international, like ESL?
Yeah, like that from a very young age. In Taiwan, it's like as early as kindergarten or earlier than that these days. So I went to something similar in the United States, but for Japanese. And I was one of the very few. If you're listening to this, don't think that it's very common in the United States to do this. I think there's a total of 3, maybe 5 schools throughout the entire United States that does this. And I went to one of them. Okay.
Wow.
Yes. And so my school starts teaching you Japanese from kindergarten. And so because of that, I basically grew up as partly Japanese in school. Outside of school, that was not the case. But because of the education system, I have a very Asian twist to my way of learning. So because of that, a lot of the things that I know about Japan are very normal for me. So when I hear Anita talking about drunk people in the train station, that doesn't cause me any shock at all because I've seen it so many times. But for me today, I want to share with you all my perspective of Japan. So for me personally, I think Japan is a wonderful country. It has a lot of great perks, convenience, speed. If you need anything, you can get it in Japan. Want to try anything, whether it's a video game or an entertainment of some type. Or, if you want to go see a movie inside of a little pod, or you want to get a cuddle from a lady that you've never met before, or you want to try some exotic fish like puffer fish raw, or you want to see a sumo wrestle, or do you want to take a photo with a geisha? There's just everything possible in Japan. And, it's just a beautiful place to go visit if you want to see it as on a tourist level. Okay, on a tourist level, it's wonderful. There's just so much for you to do that you literally could go there 100 times and you still would have things to do the next time, the 101th time. Okay, and especially in Tokyo. Anita's never been to Tokyo, and I've always wanted to take her there because it's just so much stuff. Yeah,
This is also crazy, though.
It is. It's a roller coaster. And so because of that, I think if you are considering Japan as your next stop, definitely take these into consideration. And I will also be putting a list in the description below of some of my favorite restaurants and stuff like that for you to check out. So definitely look at that. But right now, just want to share some of my favorite places in Japan that I think a lot of people would never consider going to. So one of the things that I really love about Japan is that there are not only big cities, but there's also lots of natural scenes. And a lot of people, when they go travel to Japan for the first like 5 or 6 times, they always go to big cities like Osaka, Tokyo, Kyoto. And these are great, but you're missing out on a ton of stuff. So one of the biggest things that I think would be great for you to explore is to be able to go check out places like, there's a place called Nara, and that's a place that has a bunch of deer. And Anita has been there before, and basically you have a bunch of deer.
They chew my purse.
Yeah, they attack you for food. And I've seen them attack children.
Oh my goodness.
So don't bring your children.
It's not kids friendly.
Yeah. So, but what you do though is that if you offer them food, they're supposed to bow. Okay. So.
Really?
Yeah.
They're supposed to bow?
Yeah. So you bow to it with
see.
the food. It will bow back, and then you feed it.
That's so
like
cool.
That's like the sequence. So if you want to try that, you can go ahead and try it. It's just called Deer Temple. You can look it up on your Google Maps. Yeah.
I think Nara is also one of the top places people go to in
Really?
Taiwan. Yeah, like Osaka, Nara, and Kyoto.
Oh, really?
But we definitely didn't know that you could bow to the deer.
You can bow to a deer. And they'll bow
so
back.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. And then, so places that are less common or less commonly known, I guess I should say, that you should definitely check out is Hiroshima. Hiroshima is famous for the atomic explosion during the World War, but that's basically all it's famous for. But if you go there, you can see some really cool places. Like one of the most famous places is called Miyajima. And Miyajima is, if you are familiar with the Japanese word tori, it's just the big red thing, the bridge that you can see.
It's called Niaoju.
Oh, okay, there you go. And so that is the biggest one is in Hiroshima, and it's on its own little island. And I took Anita there.
You took me there. Yeah, my memory just came back. It's like, oh.
Yep. And so this is a really wonderful place to go because you can see something that all Japanese people, when they're young, are told you have to go to at least once. It's kind of like the bucket list in Japan.
That's cool.
Yeah. So if you have any extra journeys that you want to do outside of city life, that would be a really good one.
I remember the place is really beautiful. Like shockingly beautiful. I love the place.
And the best thing is that it's different every season. So if you go during the winter, there will be snow. If you go during the fall, which is my biggest recommendation, you can see momiji, and in English that's just like the red leaf, maple leaf trees, because all around the place of Miyajima is those trees, and so all you'll see is just pure red around this tori, or this, what do you call it, Niaoju. And they also have really good desserts that are in the shape of a maple leaf.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it's super great. But there's one more place, and it's actually a couple of places combined into one that I want to recommend today. And that is, in Japan, there are a lot of islands, and a lot of them are not inhabited by people, but they are inhabited by something else. And some of them are inhabited by animals, and some of those animals are bunnies, foxes, and cats.
That's so
I think there's also
cute.
dogs. But,
Oh my God.
But yeah, these are really fun little islands that most people have maybe heard of, but they're not too sure how to get to. It's really easy. Just take a train, and find on your Google Map first, and then take a train. In Japan, they have all the routes inside of Google Maps to take you there, and you just go over there, follow the signs that either have bunnies, foxes, cats, or dogs on them, and then you can basically ride a little boat, and you'll go onto an island, and ta-da! There's animals everywhere.
That's so cute.
Yeah, I haven't taken Anita to one of those yet, but I've been meaning to take her there. And
Very excited.
yeah, and it's supposed to be. I've been to one. I went to the one for
With another woman.
my mother, and she had no idea, by the way, that I was taking her to that island. And she's like, "Where are we going?" We went on these really small trains in the middle of Japan. She's like, "I don't know where we're going. Where are you taking me?" So you're gonna love it. It's like, "Are you sure?" It's like, "Yeah." Okay, so we just keep going, and she didn't realize that the closer we got to Bunny Island, the more signs of bunnies around us there were. She didn't notice there were so many bunnies. So I was just like, "Nee." And so we just get closer and closer, and we go into the store, and I buy little carrots and celery. And she's like, "Why are you buying carrots and celery?" I was like, "You'll find out." Okay. And then finally, right before we get on the boat, there's just a giant bunny in front of the boat. And it's just
Impossible to avoid.
impossible to avoid. It's just like, why is there a giant bunny? It's like, oh, And you'll find out. But there's a big video that was telling him about Bunny Island. So it's like, oh my God, we're going to an island full of bunnies. I was like, yep. And so she had a great time. It was so much fun and just an unforgettable experience. These are the fun little things that you can do when you're in Japan. So that's from my traveling point of view. Now, cultural shock point of view, I want to share just one little thing about Japan is something that Anita just brought up, and I'm going to get a little bit deeper into it. So Japanese people, when you meet them, and they're not your friend, they're kind of like a stranger on the street or whatever, they are more than happy to be helpful, friendly, and open with you. But there is a reason behind that. Inside of Japanese culture, there are two very important words when Japanese people are growing up, and they learn these two words very well so that when they are building relationships with people, they use either one of these. So I'm going to explain both of them now. The first one is called tatemae, and that in Chinese is called 见钱. So 见 like 大楼, like 你会那个建立 那个剑 okay, and then 埋就是前面的前 okay, and then the other one is honne, and then this in Chinese is called 本音, so like 本人的本 and then like 录音的音 okay, so these two words represent how someone expresses themselves to someone else. So if I use tatemae, the first one I mentioned, this is them presenting society standards, okay? But then second one is representing them personally, okay? So if we talk about tatemae, the first one, they're going to be like that classic Japanese that you see anywhere on TV, anywhere in movies, and anywhere. You know, if you go to Japan, they're like, "Irashaimase, kochira dozo." And they're showing this personality too, because that's society's acceptance. Okay, if you don't represent this, then you are not being accepted by society.
Oh my goodness.
So this is why it's called, this is what's built up in front of you. Yeah, 前面, right? So most people in Japan don't know how to separate the two, okay? So usually what that means is that when they do this, they always do the first one, the tatemae. Now let's talk about the other one, the honne. This is their true voice. Okay, this is where things like going out and getting drunk with your coworkers every week is really important for building relationships, because when they get drunk, somehow the tatemae gets put down. Okay, like the wall is down now. And so now that the wall is down, the honne, like the true voice, is coming out.
Showing up.
Yeah, starting to show up. They're being who they really are. They're having a great time. You know, they're being themselves. And this is why in society, going out to drink with your coworkers at the end of every work shift is almost mandatory in some companies, because this is the only way for you to get the honne, the natural part of themselves, out. So this is a really interesting phenomenon that you do not see in any other country.
That's true.
Yeah. And so one of the things is that, like I mentioned, is that people go to so extremes that they never talk about their honne, and they never do their second one. And so what happens? You get these really messy houses. You get these really crazy activities that they do. You know, they do really risky things, you know, with their bodies, or, you know, stuff like that, or gamble a lot, you know, because they never have a way to express who they really are.
Oh, God.
And this is a big problem in Japanese society.
It's so intense.
And that's why you get a lot of really depressing books and novels and stuff like that, and movies and like emo stuff, and all this stuff really starts to come out. Or why people don't have children in Japan, or why is the society getting older and older but there's no new babies around. You know, it's just a huge problem in Japan, not United States. United States, we love babies, but in Japan this is a huge issue. So this is just one of the tips of the iceberg of my studies of Japan.
Wow.
But since you brought it up, I decided to share that today.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's really great. Thank you very much for sharing. It's very insightful. I think they also don't like the two words you just say. Most of the time they don't really talk about who they really are, right? Like it's really, really, really hard to see who they really are. like from the personal level. So
That's absolutely right.
right. Wow.
And the only people who really know how to express this are people who either are aware of this issue or people who have traveled around the world and like actually been experienced the different cultures, or they're teachers themselves and they actually, like I said, are exposed to this kind of knowledge. But in general, Japanese people are not aware of these two words. And so because of that, they all just kind of get this impression that if I'm a good Japanese, I will always tatemae, the first word I said. But then the only way that they feel like they can be themselves is with those extremes. So it's a really scary situation that I think Japanese people are still trying to figure out how to handle.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
No, absolutely. And so, like I mentioned, that this is just one thing that I know about it. And knowing Japanese, I've learned that being accepted in a Japanese society is really difficult as it is. I mean, not only for Japanese people, for foreigners, it's like even harder. You know, you can go into Japan, you can work your butt off, you can devote yourself to that country, but you will always have this like the considered outsider persona, and it's a really hard thing to swallow because you have to accept that no matter what, Japanese people have a standard that's so high that very few people, including Japanese people, are capable of meeting. So it's a beautiful country to visit, but just me personally, don't want to live there ever again.
You so dark.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just representing Japan.
Just kidding.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
no, but I lived in Japan for
Yeah.
2.5 years. I lived in Tokyo for 6 months. I lived in Shimane, which is a very small place in
No
Japan.
one land.
Yeah, no one land. More rice fields than there are people land. And it was a beautiful place, and the people there were so friendly, and I loved my job. I met lots of kids, and I was one of the only foreigners in the whole entire town. There was only 3 foreigners there, and there were 2,000 people in the whole town. So everyone saw me, and they're like, "Hey,
Kaiji!
Kaiji, why go red?" And
White!
yes, I teach you all the time. I know you. I know your brother. I know your mother works at the grocery store. Okay, it's like I know literally the whole family. So much so that they
They
take
still
me.
called you.
They say, "Hey, why go red?" I'm just like, you know my name. I know your name.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting situation, and people are gonna be accepting and loving, but there's always like that
Barrier.
right? Exactly. And so it's something that you just have to come and grow and accept, and not care about it. And so yeah, Japan is a wonderful place if you do decide to want to go farther than doing tourism there and actually want to go there to study or travel, or live there. Do it. I mean, you'll definitely have so much culture shock that you'll be like, who am I? Because I left Japan and moved to Taiwan, I was like, I don't even know who I am anymore, because like I felt like a completely different person. I was so Japaneseified. I was like being so passive and polite all the time. Anita can tell you, I was just so kind to everybody around me, and I was just like, but at the same time I was like, I don't know why I'm doing it.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So
What did Japan do to you?
yeah, well, it's a very interesting place. And so, yeah, it also has a lot of fun things. Okay, so now we're going to share something special
Exclusive.
about us.
Oh. Are you going to share the things I wanted to share?
I don't know.
I don't know. Are we go?
We haven't prepped for this part, so this is going to be a surprise for us as well. So one of the things that I really wanted to share about Japan with Anita and I is our trip to Osaka together.
Yeah, it's the same.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'll let you say that because it's super cheesy and corny.
Oh my goodness.
But before you do, since I'm on the roll, I'm going to go ahead and say mine, different one. And that is going to Kyoto.
Oh,
okay. And also going to the land of nowhere where I used to live.
Oh my God.
Okay, so first is Kyoto. A lot of people who go to Japan always say, yeah, let's go to Kyoto. Let's go to Jingdu. Yeah, man. It's great. Hold on there, buddy. So there are certain things about Kyoto that you really should know before you go. Okay, if you're a lady and you want to go to Kyoto, you have to try wearing a kimono when you're there. How do you say kimono?
Kimono.
In Chinese.
Oh, sorry. Hurtful.
Okay, so that makes sense. Japanese clothes. Okay, so definitely try it. But But this is the key. If you try kimono, do not wear it for a whole day. You
Why?
will die. Okay. It's just too tight and too intense.
Oh, I
Okay. They'll ask you, do you want to wear it for a day? Yeah. You want to do it? It's this price. Just ask them, can I just wear it for like 4 or 5 hours? And they'll say, oh, okay, sure.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So you'll save money. And you will save torture, because there are some people that will, like Americans who don't know at all, they'll like go in there, they're like, you want to rent it for a week? They're like, oh yeah, sure, I can wear a kimono for a week. And I'm like, do you know how tight those things are?
Oh my goodness,
and the
I
fabric
don't.
is so thick.
Ooh.
Oh my god, it's like when it was winter, you know, like back in the day where there was actually snow and cold and bears, you know. It's not like that anymore, okay? So if you go into summer, definitely don't wear it for more than like 2 hours. You will
God.
regret it. Okay, so that's tip number 1 about Kyoto. Okay, tip number 2, you have to try udon in Kyoto.
Oh.
Okay, udon, oolong mian. I know this one because it's just that good. All right, so if you go to Kyoto, just find any oolong mian or udon noodles. You can. They are amazing. Okay.
Wow.
And now, since we're talking about food, I have one more food I want to recommend. There is a very famous temple called in Japanese Kyomizudera, and Kyomizudera in English is the same, so I don't know what it is in Chinese, but basically it's the biggest temple in Kyoto. Okay, it's on a really big hill, and what is it?
清水寺.
Yes, that's what it is. Nice job.
Yay.
Okay, so while you're walking up the hill to Qingshui Si, you will see stores left and right, all the way up. But there's one specific store that has a pastry, like a little dessert that is in the shape of a triangle. Inside there, they have samples throughout the whole entire store. Go in there, eat all the samples, buy a box. You won't regret it. I swear to God. They are just amazing. It's Kyoto's, like, they call it their famous food. Yeah, meibutsu.
Oh.
And ming-u ma.
Yeah, like 名产.
Yeah, Mingchan. Yeah. So definitely try it out. It's phenomenal, especially if you like sugar, like me.
Oh my God.
Okay. All right. So that's my recommendation for the traveling part is Kyoto, and yeah.
So for me, I would like to share that it's actually I learned this from one of my students. She said that you can get it's like a tiny little manual book. They call it a passport, but basically this passport is for all the temples. You know, all the temple. Japan was covered in temples, so every temple they will have like special stamp. You can get this book and you can literally just give it to the information desk of every temple. They will just give you this special stamp from this special temple. And that's not the cool part. Those stamps, they will also change based on the seasons. Like, for example, springtime is like a sakura season, and they will change the design of that stamp, and each year might be a different design. So it's like super cool. And if you like to collect stamps, this is the things that you can get. You can get it from airports or any kind of temple. You just tell them that they have a name. I will look it up again and put it on Instagram. How they know what the name is, the exact name is. But basically, it's like a tiny little book. You can get it from any temples and just collect stamps.
They're really cool looking and very unique and big.
Yes.
So you will definitely like them because they make great souvenirs.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, it's a great example. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So I forgot to mention about where I lived in the middle of nowhere. And in Japanese, it's called Shimane, and in Chinese, it's called Daogen. You don't need to remember that. You don't. Okay. But the whole point is that where I lived was a really far away where even Japanese people don't know what it's called. It's actually famous in Japan for being the most forgettable place in the country. And so if you ask a Japanese person, for example, who's from Tokyo, and they say, oh, where do you live? I say, oh, I'm from Shimane. And they'll be like,
Shimane?
What is that? Are you messing with me right now? Is what? Okay, so they're serious too. They really don't know. And so I pull out a map and I show them. They're like, oh, they're really close to Hiroshima. It's like, yes, that's right. So Shimane they're not famous for very much. There's only two things that they're famous for. They're famous for their Japanese sake, and they're famous for this one temple that we're one temple. Yeah, it's a really pretty temple. All the ghosts go there during Ghost Month. Yeah, but anyways, it's
definitely not the place that you should go because I've been there for a week.
Yeah, not
Literally traumatized me.
All right. Well, if you want to experience real Japanese culture, you can go there for a week. But just so you know, real Japanese culture is pretty intense. Okay, so you have to be ready for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah. Anyways, it's a really pretty place, and the countryside of Japan is gorgeous. Just keep in mind that if you do drive, there will be wild animals everywhere. I'm talking.
What is this place?
I'm talking about like monkeys. I'm talking like wild boar. I'm talking like bears.
Oh my goodness.
My friend who lived there, the only other of the 3 foreigners living in that place, was driving her tiny little car. And in Japan, their cars are teeny tiny little things, and they're made out of like paper or something. But anyways, they're so flimsy. And she was driving in the middle of the day up a hill, and all of a sudden there was this giant boar. And if you don't know what a boar is, it's just a giant pig. Okay, a giant. Yeah. Exactly. And a boar was just in the middle of the street, and it saw her car.
Oh my God.
And it thought it was another boar, and so it attacked her and completely destroyed her car.
Really?
Just completely. And my friend is this tiny little girl, so she's just like, like driving backwards as fast as she can, which is really hard because all the roads in the middle of nowhere are really swervy and they're not straight at all. And so she's just like swerve, caw, caw, caw. Like this. I'm surprised that she made it out alive because those things are intense.
Oh
Her car got
God.
completely destroyed,
Oh,
and
dang it.
insurance doesn't cover that. They're like, she called and she told the truth. She's like, yeah, I got attacked by a wild boar, and like the person on the other line's, of course they're not. They're Japanese, so they're just like, oh, sold this guy. そうですか。それはちょっと It's just like you don't get any money for that, so she had to pay all out of pocket for all
Oh my
that.
God.
Yeah. Anyways, experiences in Japan are fun. But yeah, if you really like drinking, you can go out there because they have really fresh Japanese sake.
No, that's good. That's good to know.
Yep. So
Here comes the fun part.
yeah.
I've been waiting for this.
Oh boy. So what's gonna happen now?
Eric is going to sing a very authentic Japanese song, which is my favorite song. because I think it's cute.
Oh boy. So
Here we go. You're gonna love it.
like I said, I used to go to an elementary school, and we had to learn these like every day, kind of like the national anthem in the United States. So they would pull out these big old papers and be like, all right, hai, se no, and then we have to start singing the song. Na 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 na. This is so embarrassing.
Say no.
Yeah, exactly.
So cute.
So we're gonna do that right now. So
Here we go.
you do the hai, se no, and I'll start.
Okay. Okay, ready? Hi. Say no.
バナナが一本ありました。青い南の空の下。子供二人いてそりゃと。バナナがするんで飛んでった。バナナはどこに行ったかな。バナナンバナナンバナナナン。
いいね。
ありがとうございます。
You said it just so cute. I remember this one time we went to karaoke.
Yep.
In Taiwan with my friends, and the first song that Eric sang, it was there was another Japanese weird song.
Yeah, there's just a lot of weird Japanese songs.
It's just like
I think it was just like the alphabet in Japanese.
yeah, like ai ue
Yeah.
so something like that.
Yeah, it was just really crazy.
yeah.
Mana mana.
My friends are entertained for this for sure.
They'll never forget it. That was the whole point. You remember Eric when he did the A Iu E song? すごい
So crazy.
超猛的.
Yeah.
All right.
It's fun.
Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share it, like it, tell your friends on Facebook about it, talk to us on Instagram and buymeacoffee.com/Taiwanica.
That's right.
Well,
We'll see you
next time.
next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Taiwanica. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.